Alaikum. It is with huge pleasure that I welcome Masuma and all the guests to Chawkandi Art. I'm Nusrat Khwaja. I'm going to introduce Masuma Khwaja. So Masuma is an award-winning artist. She's a curator and an educator. She is the co-author of the book, Public Art, Thriving on Urban Chaos. Masuma is a founder and former trustee of the Karachi Biennale. She has been associated with many outreach programs, including the Public Art Festival. Masuma is a graduate of the NCA. She has also taught there, and she has also taught at the Indus Valley School and the School for Visual Arts at Karachi University. In January 2022, Masuma curated the Aisha Khalid retrospective at the Frere Hall, a project that was supported by Chawkandi Art and HPL. She had the opportunity subsequently to take the retrospective to New Zealand, and this transfer of the retrospective to New Zealand is the subject of our conversation today, curating across 2 continents. So Masuma, do you want to tell us how New Zealand found you?
So the thing is that the curator of, the director of the gallery in New Zealand, Zara Stanhope, she had been the director of Kagoma, the Queensland Art Gallery and Museum before. And at that point, for the Asia Pacific Triennale, they had commissioned a work of Aisha's. She had not, but somebody had. So since then, she had been following Aisha's work. And in that, there was a huge tapestry in which Aisha had addressed the colonizers.
Okay.
The Australians themselves. So she had been quite impressed. So wo follow kar rahi thi. And then when the show at Frere Hall took place, obviously it was in the media, so she saw it. And as she says, I thought to myself, let's get this here. So she wrote to me, but sadly the mail went in my spam folder. I checked my spam folder also at times. So I was like, this doesn't look like spam. Should I open? Should I not? So I opened it, and then I asked Aisha. So I asked Aisha, ke lag to sahi raha hai, but do you want to do it? So Aisha said, dekh lein aap. Matlab, you take the risk and write back to her. So I did.
Masuma, I'd just like to tell everybody here about New Plymouth, the place in New Zealand where the Govett Brewster Gallery is. And it's part of a very large museum, the Len Lai Museum, which is named after an artist. And it's one of the signature locations of New Plymouth, New Zealand, right?
Yes, it is.
So it's a very important gallery, the Govett Brewster Gallery, where Zara Stanhope is the current director. Okay.
So, well, that was it. And then we got the ball rolling. She sent me a few plans of the gallery. I checked if the paintings would fit. Right. And then we said, okay, let's start.
So actually, it's really interesting because you had curated a lot of the works here, but now you are further curating because of the place and the space. And I think that gives a different context to the same artwork. So it's not just the artwork by itself, but it's also the location and the context in which the audience is coming to see the artwork.
Bilkul. So she wanted to form, she wanted the local communities to relate with the artwork. And the local communities are Maori.
Right.
So, and they are very deeply spiritual, and they're very different from what we would expect a basic New Zealander to be. I had no clue. So she sent me text about the Maoris and the Taranaki region. So that entire New Plymouth region is called Taranaki, and New Plymouth is called Namotu. So when I read the text, I realized that they had faced a forced eviction from their lands. So Maoris believe that land is not to be owned, but it is to be nurtured for the next generation. But when the British came, what they did was they wanted to sell the land and own the land. So these people, there was this Parihaka community in New Plymouth, in Taranaki, which put up a very peaceful resistance. What they would do is they'd go and plow the land every day. Jis tarah ke unhi ka hai. So, but when the British came, they actually, they were met with dancing children and with bread and all, but they imprisoned all of them. They killed some, they raped the women. So, that is entrenched in their memory, and they lost their land, obviously. तो जब मैं आयशा का शो यहाँ पे कर रही थी, every night I would send her an image of her work and I would say, send me a voice note for this, because I feel it's very important to know your artist inside and out. So when I heard this story, I rang up Aisha and I said, Aisha, you told me about your home in Sindh and the tiles that you get from there that come into your work. What happened? So she said, well, we were forced to leave overnight, because we were Punjabis, and at that time the Sindhi Punjabi tension was so much that we left around 200 acres of land and we moved to Punjab overnight. So we left everything. So that is what I then centered this on. I said she has faced a forced eviction in her childhood. And then obviously they also kind of linked to the language hierarchies, because Aisha started learning English when she was 16. And in New Zealand, Tireo is the Maori language, did not have an official standing till 1987. So it was looked down upon, schools mein padha nahi sakte the. So that is where the link was again formed, and very strong links.
Yeah.
So that is how
Right.
then I linked this.
So in a way, there was a personal story, but then it also ties up into a very grand narrative of anti-colonialism.
Yes.
It ties up with the eviction or partition, where again, many people changed their homeland and adopted a new home. And all these resonances were going on by taking art across. And that's quite interesting, because Zara Stanhope brought up the issue of New Zealand and Pakistan having the same colonizers, right?
No, she said that I'm interested in linking it to the Maori narrative.
Okay.
So yeah,
Right. That's really quite interesting, actually.
yes, and so
They are rehabilitating their people. I think they are also trying to the settlers are coming to terms with what happened in their history that needs to be mediated and corrected.
they are majorly doing that.
Right.
They're making amends.
Right.
So
do you want to talk us through a little bit of what your experience was like going there as a curator and having a very different context for the reception of the art?
One of the most important aspects of creating an art show is to make that the art is understood and then resonates with audiences. You cannot expect to center in on the same concerns for places with different geopolitical histories and cultural traditions. So I zoned in on the spirituality in her work for her first retrospective, as that was something I felt that Pakistani audiences would kind of relate to. But for the New Zealand retrospective, I tried to place more emphasis on the concerns that the audiences there would relate to, like her eviction from her lands or the language hierarchies. That doesn't go to say that the other aspects are ignored or underplayed. It's just that that particular aspect is set first.
So you have all these cross-cultural currents going on.
So yahan, when I reached here, they welcomed me with a karakia. Karakia is a prayer.
Would they have this prayer for all openings in
Yes,
the gallery?
I think so.
Okay, so it's their way of reintroducing Maori spirituality, Maori practices into mainstream New Zealand life.
Yeah. They will definitely have a Maori welcome for everything.
Okay.
Yeah, they like. Then they had the way he was welcoming me was very nice, because he kept saying we want no English में कर रहे थे, थोड़ा सा Maori में बोलते थे, and then he would go into English and he would say, we want to settle your spirit with the spirits of our ancestors. We hope you feel settled here. We hope the show goes well. So he would keep saying it, and then after 3 days of work, this is the layout that we got, that we all agreed on, because this was a cinema. This entire gallery was a cinema before. So I wanted the show to run as if it was running a reel into Aisha's life. But then also we had to think about the aesthetics of the artworks. So it was a big struggle, because the gallery is on 4 levels. So,
and you had to also reduce the number of items, right, according to the space. Like
yes,
you had a lot more space here in Karachi.
Yahan to there were 3 venues and there were 75 works. Wahan we proposed 50, but then we had to cut it down to 45 because वो किसी तरह भी fit नहीं हो रहे थे. For the Karachi retrospective, there were 3 venues that the work was divided into. We had 5 works with videos or audio clips, and out of that, 3 or 4 of those were at the Freer Hall. So for those, we had created separate cubicles out of MDF to contain the sound, and also for the audiences to experience the work in its exclusivity. But at the Govett Brewster, the space is a cinema which has been reconstructed, really. So it's an open space. There are many levels. So we had to really think about how to place. I had to think about how to place these things. So the first 2 artworks with audio files were at the entrance. Out of those, one had headphones and the other had a sound shower. The second 2 artworks with audio files were very close on the mezzanine, but the mezzanine is carpeted. So the hope is that the carpeting would absorb the sound, which it did, and we had kept it very low. And the last artwork with the audio file was on level 4, which was really far away. So those kind of considerations had to be, thought out.
But was it easy? Did you find it easy to go there as a non-New Zealander and to put up a show?
Yes, it was easy in the sense that, just like Freer Hall, we had to really struggle, because we were building a building inside a heritage site, and we had no government support. But yahan, everything was working like clockwork. When I went back, they were working out the logistics.
Okay.
So when I came back, everything was in place. They had figured out how much weight the roof could take, what machinery they needed to pull up things. So it was a week's job and we were doing it together. And so the only thing I found difficult was that I was climbing up and down the steps.
Yes. How many levels did you say? 4 levels.
4 levels.
Right.
But the team was unbelievable. Very good team.
I think that's something really important that we need here in Pakistan as well for our shows, to have professional teams who can just lend themselves to mega shows.
Bilkul.
And put them up. And so how did you feel that you evolved or changed as a person? Because obviously this was a show that you had put a lot of yourself into, a lot of thought into.
Yeah.
And then you go to a completely new place and you see how they are responding to your curated work. So were you the same Masuma afterwards?
Yes. But it gives you a sense of confidence. It makes you understand how to do things the right way. There was a lot of problem that we had with shipping. I didn't. I was just a silent observer in the whole thing. But there were, you learn how to do all those things. But also the reactions that you get from the public. The writing of signage was crucial for this. I wrote the signage and shared it with Zara and Simon, and then they would let me know what wasn't clear for them. And I would rewrite it so that the concepts that were alien to people over there would be more clear, like the duets that we give in dowry, or the kiswa of the Holy Kaaba, and the ababil, or even things like, the tamburo, and the devotees who sit at the shrine of Shah Abdul Latif Bhitai, singing his kalam. Also, there were things like the terrorist attack on the army school in the way that Pakistan understands it, in a neutral manner, yet conveying the intensity of damage. So, writing in a manner that is sensitive and explanatory, in my opinion, has a lot to do with what the audience takes away from the show. Although I must add here that without any explanation, Aisha's artworks have the power to move people greatly. This installation, that Kaaba thing, oh my God, I had to explain it so many times because there are very simple things that they did not understand. So, and this installation had birds going around it in anti-clockwise manner so that they would understand how people do Hajj. So we made them go around it. And so there are those small little paintings with it. So usme na Aisha has drawn little squares going around as if circumambulating. So I took out a YouTube video and I said, oh my God, this looks so much like this. So I showed them the YouTube video of people going Labbaik, La Sharika La. So they said, what's this? So I said, it's Hajj. So they were like, what's Hajj?
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So you were taking for granted that
So
they
many
will
things I was
understand
taking
so many of your cultural references, which were absolutely alien.
Absolutely alien.
Yeah.
So it was a great thing in a way that this was a soft opening to Islam also for them. They understood it, and they understood it in a soft way. It wasn't preaching. It was just something that somebody had done.
Coming through art,
Yeah.
I think,
So-
yes, the universalizing power of art in a way.
So that was a game changer also.
Yeah.
They called these people to bless the show. So she will walk through each work. Now you'll see how it's set up. This is the actual setup of the work.
And she's an elder of the tribe, or she's a person who,
I guess. So the child even blessed the food.
okay.
And the food was another way of telling their people about our culture.
Are the Pakistanis there well integrated in the society? Did you get a feel of what the...
Not really. I felt they were. I attended 2 iftars. It was in Ramzan. So I felt that there was a distance, but on the main day, when they came to the gallery, that was when things I felt changed a lot. Because when they, it's like you go to a country, what are museums for? You go to a country, you see your artwork over there, you feel a sense of pride. You feel they know about my history now. They know how important my history is, how cultured I am. And then you also, they also realize that you come from a place of informed thought. So they start accepting you. So that is what happened over here, like just to feel that, oh, so this community, these people, this work belongs to them. This is how they think.
So I think that goes to the heart of the reconsideration of museums in a modern life, in our contemporary life, because museums are no longer being treated as those places for dead objects that are put away, but they have agency. And also curators and museum administrators are looking at how to give greater agency to the role of a museum in society. So I think it's so interesting what you said about the Pakistani community and the fact that there's a Pakistani curator who's gone there with Pakistani art.
With Pakistani art. And one of the people who I had invited, he said, I came because my wife couldn't come and she forced me to come because you had invited us. But I'm so glad I came because they were Sindhis. So when they saw the Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai wala video installation, they were so amazed and they were so happy that they had come. So just that fact,
that acknowledgement of something that's so precious to them,
of course,
and coming out.
And then the next day they had called in the children
from schools.
No, yes, they said all the children can come in, have a tour with Aisha or the curator. So they actually had a tour with the curator because Aisha was in the studio handling their artwork. So we divided it in such a way. And the fact that they then became very comfortable with the museum space. And I felt that is so important. Because if you don't see children in museums and galleries, then you're going wrong somewhere because they need to come in and feel comfortable with the space. And these guys had even decided that they would have a child write down the explanation in their own words so that other children could relate to what is written rather than art speak.
So we have Fariha here in the audience from Mohatta Palace. And I think they've done a great job of having thousands of children come and see the current show there on Jinnah Saab's first 2 years of Pakistan till he died. So that's really fabulous. So, I mean, these kids will grow up with a very different worldview than their parents did. So is there anything else in the video that you'd like to talk us through, Masuma? Because I'm sure people would like to be part of our conversation.
What I found very interesting was the outreach.
Okay.
So,
and you yourself have worked with outreach programs here.
Exactly. And
so you were sensitive to that.
Big believer in ignoring art speak, which they did.
By art speak, you mean jargon. That's hard for the average person to
because you don't have to dumb things down, but you don't have to speak in a language that nobody understands. वो मुझे समझ ही नहीं आती बात.
Right.
And they didn't do that.
Tell us a little bit about the reactions, and then maybe we can ask people to, share in the.
People are going back in tears. They are so moved, and because they relate to the artwork, they relate to the spirituality, they're relating to everything. And then they had this outreach thing where it was on the hierarchy of languages. There were 7 panelists sitting, each from a different country, each having a different language as a mother tongue.
As the first language.
And they all spoke about how they found it difficult to settle in a country where the language, English was considered higher, and the challenges they had faced. Zara conducts the curator tours now. and she sent me pictures, and there were so many people.
Amazing.
For a town of 40,000, 45,000 people,
Oh my God.
so many is a lot.
Tiny
Yeah.
enclave of BHA. Yeah.
So I can show you. So they booked the local church. हाँ 200-300 तो होंगे हाँ, because they booked the local church for their iftars and all, and the church gives them space for all their activities.
So everyone, please feel free to join in. Please ask Masuma any
Yeah, you can ask
questions
me
that
any
you may
questions.
have.
Masuma, you spoke about the outreach.
हाँ.
So,
इनको माइक की जरूरत तो नहीं है?
kind of outreach are they employing? I mean, I understand it's a small town, like you said, 45.
45,000, that's what I read.
Sheep ज़्यादा है ना, music
हाँ,
में,
बहुत ज़्यादा.
as compared to the human population.
Right.
No, I'm not
No, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
so-
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I would like to know, like, how do they make this known, public, or what do they
Oh, so they use all the normal methods. They efflux pe announcement gayi. Then they will. She had given me a sheet of exactly how many museums they would contact throughout the world and throughout New Zealand and in Australia. Then while I was there the first time, an Australian magazine called me up to interview. So wo sari, they have their outreach very much there. So because people from Auckland will come in, and people from Christchurch will come in, so वो सारे आते हैं to see, because this is, as I read somewhere, supposed to be the bravest gallery in New Zealand.
Wow. Yeah.
So
that's
it's
amazing.
very cutting edge, जहाँ उस तरह का आर्ट होता है. तो
And Masuma, can I ask you, like, as a professional, as a curator, because of their own ethos about how they want to invite the outside into their own worldview, they probably welcomed you very, very warmly, and maybe they didn't judge you by criteria that some other museum may have held. Did you feel that it was?
Yes.
You did.
Yes. So I will not say where.
Okay.
But I have been to places where, it's like if you speak a certain jargon, if you don't hang out with, they welcome you very warmly.
Right.
They want to know about you and they tell you about themselves. They're not like one would say, let's say, the British or the Americans, because we can't blame them. I think we've had too much interaction with them. So there is already there are preconceived ideas and slots that they slot us
Right.
into. यहाँ तो कुछ है ही नहीं. So it's something new and
Yeah.
something they're open to.
But also that idea of being a jargon-free zone, I think that is such a good attitude to have
Yeah,
towards their own people, towards people from other communities as well.
bilkul.
Because that jargon, I think, really puts up a wall.
It does. And I have seen my artist friends, I again will not name her. So every time she reads some text that has a lot of isms and a lot of tough words, and she'll look at me and she says, explain. So I find that very funny, because that means that she gets it, but
Yes.
she's just so had it.
She's also spoofing. Yes, exactly.
I think this is a very bold step that they took,
Yeah.
bringing Aisha's work there. But just before Aisha's work, a year back, they had Areez Katki and Khadim Ali.
Wow. Okay.
So Khadim is an Australian, Areez is a Parsi, but New Zealander. So both of them, because they had those Persian roots, so then they introduced them to that side,
Right.
the Afghanistan and the Afghanistan side, Iran side.
Right.
So sari history.
The influence of Persian culture.
Yeah. So they're slowly moving with that,
Right.
because they are committed to the Pacific Rim. So art of New Zealand and the Pacific Rim. Now Pacific Rim बहुत बड़ा है, so it will include British Columbia. It'll include everything.
Right.
Because so I asked this guy, this I found this very interesting, so I wrote it down. So when a Maori asks you, "Who are you?" The question is "Ko wai koi," which actually translates as "Which water are you from?"
Wow.
So, so the water is their family. That whole thing is their family.
How
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
The
So,
real oceanic people.
well, remember, we've always been taught Australia is the continent.
Yes.
But now when I read, it's Oceania.
Oceania, which includes all the
All the
islands,
Polynesian
Papua New
islands,
Guinea,
Samoa,
Tahiti, yeah,
Hosa,
all of those
sorry.
islands, Bali.
Yeah.
Yeah, fabulous. I love the idea of water being your family. I mean, it's so cosmological. हम भी कहेंगे अब होने वाला है अब yes absolutely we are going to be embraced
Which trench are you from?
How long is the show on?
So it's on till the 16th of July.
Okay, so it's a long duration.
4 महीने करते हैं वो लोग, हाँ. So
it's an amazing commitment, but I think they have worked out harmony between galleries, the government, the NGOs.
I forgot to tell you this. So now the Government Brewster is funded mainly by the new Plymouth District Council.
You see, and
Ah.
look at us. I mean, there's such important lessons for us to take
Because
here
yeah.
of how we can.
This is a good way to, like soft way of educating people. So when we also another outreach that they do is that they will ask us, what books do you read? So Aisha se पूछा के, so Aisha said a few Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai या जो भी उसने while making these works. Then they asked me, can you tell us books that will put the works into context? Books that were slightly on the periphery. So I suggested 1971, or I suggested Footprints of Partition by Anam Zakaria. So then they asked us movies. So they said, please give us a list of 10 movies each, Pakistani or anything that can put the work into context.
Okay.
So I suggested Jinnah. So they they finally got the rights to Jinnah, so they will screen it now.
That's fabulous.
So
But that's such a good Jameel Dehlvi's Jinnah,
Jameel
right?
Dehlvi's,
It's a
yes.
remarkable film, actually.
Because
Yeah.
they feel कि लोगों को context मिलना चाहिए where the work is coming
Yes.
from, what it's going to say. So that is the kind of outreach they're doing. Now another one is art and spirituality. So they will call their all their artists who are working with spirituality and have them talk. And then there will be one with a making workshop. So for that, they've also called artists, and Aisha will be online.
Okay.
So उस तरह से a lot of community involvement.
And they were also looking at a new form of a traditional art from our part of the world.
जी हाँ.
So you have all these echoes of the past and the present.
So now with this exposure and learning and seeing what all they're doing at a government level, right, at the country level. So, and over here, what I know, and maybe might shed more light on that, is that we have art shows and we have art shows in galleries. But in terms of putting across a universal message, I mean, I know we have Meet the Biennale, that might be the one thing that we have. But other than that, are we doing anything, and would you bring anything like that to the Pakistan platform with your?
To bring it to Pakistan, the government of Pakistan needs to agree. However, having said that, I think नहीं और किस्म के exactly. I do get your point, but I think PNCA would be in a position to do that, and they do it sometimes. They do have good shows. So I think PNCA does that. It's just that funds. अभी तो पाकिस्तान में I think fund availability is a major problem.
But Masuma, it's really intriguing actually, because here they're looking at a whole cosmology that comes with Maori culture. They're also, in a way, there's an implicit apology there as well,
Yes.
right? Because there was so much damage done to indigenous communities by the settlers. And so all these dynamics are going on to make an art exhibition so much bigger than the art or the gallery itself.
बिल्कुल हाँ.
And I think we can also maybe take some lessons from that. I mean, we have also to stretch our thinking about what our art is doing. But as Saira said, yes, the Biennale is also in a way an outreach program. It is looking to pull in the public and
Which is
take
very
the art to the
important,
public.
yes,
Yeah.
बिल्कुल, हाँ.
But here you have this government funded, private.
But Lahore में the Biennale is government funded.
Yeah.
At least the first 2 iterations. So their government is probably more informed and more aware and more willing to give money. So यहाँ ये नहीं हो रहा.
बिल्कुल.
So but yet I feel the Biennale is managing pretty well. Actually, people need to understand what art can do.
Yes, this is such a
Because they
vital
always say
point.
art से क्या होगा, but art से इतना subtle और positive change आता है कि it's not, you can't calculate it, you can't pin it down, but there is a change.
Yes, I mean, we cannot underestimate the significance of what you've just said, Masuma, because it's true that art is the people who are not that sensitive to art, they consider it to be decorative. But here you can see how it's actually functioning as an ambassador.
बिल्कुल.
And
I like that word.
right.
Phrase.
So, you know, it's like so, such a, what should one say, a change maker. And you're right that it changes the way you grow up and the way you look at the rest of the world. And hopefully it helps you move towards a more harmonized and peaceful world where you don't want to. Anyway, thank you so much, Masuma. Thank you.